Yo, what is up, guys? This is Troy D from the Troy D 24/7 Mall channel, your source for on point and no hype reviews. We are back again, everybody. We're back with another fragrance review right here, guys, on my final day off. And today I will be talking about the latest YSL Y Flanker for 2025. Lots of polarizing feedback is what I see online on this one. So can't wait to break it down for y'all and give you my own opinion. Let's go. Now, before I continue, please do not forget to like and subscribe, guys, okay? Liking, subscribing, and watching the ads is a great big deal to this channel as we head towards 25,000 subscribers. So please continue all your support, guys. Deep dive into my over 800 no hype videos, purchase from our affiliate program, and our friends of the channel that contribute to the growth of this channel. Of course, you guys do it as well. Thank you so much for all your support. Now, there is one person I do want to thank who sent this beautiful sample and who is decanting this fragrance, and that is Jared Miller. So Jared Miller, he also provided the last Amouage that I just reviewed. So if you would like to try this fragrance at a low cost, maybe 2 to 3 ml or 5 ml, or you want to have like a pocket travel version of your perfumes instead of buying like a full bottle, he is the man. I will link him below. He's got a ton of decants of, you know, basically the best fragrances out there. So thank you very much, Jared. And the fragrance that we'll be talking about today is none other than the latest YSL Y Flanker for 2025. This is none other than YSL Y Le Parfum. Yes, YSL Y Le Parfum 2025, guys. All right. And when this came out, my first impression was like, did they already release this thing? I mean, like 2021 or 2023 or something. But as y'all know, I mean, these lines, these perfume lines like YSL Y, Armani Stronger With You, Paco Rabanne 1 Million, La Mail, and so on, these are cash cows for these designer brands. And, you know, they make them like they make babies, you know, like non-stop. It never really ends. I don't follow a lot of the flankers too much, but this one in particular I got interested in because of the polarizing feedback it got once it released. Some people are saying all out horrendous. This fragrance is horrendous. They hate it. And then there are some people that are saying, like, for example, Jared Miller told me that for him, this one was the best one yet. All right. So that's exactly what I want to hear. Polarizing feedback that would make me want to review this fragrance, no hype. This is also done by Dominique Ropion, one of my favorite perfumers, who is somewhat of an adventurer and a risk taker. And that should say it, right? I mean, you have a risk taker of a perfumer making a new flanker. So that's probably what it is. Anyways, let's get into this fragrance right here. Let's go spray this thing right now. Okay, guys, now let's talk about this fragrance right here, the latest flanker to YSL Y. This is none other than YSL Y Le Parfum 2025. Now, this fragrance, believe it or not, does have a concept, all right? And a lot of designer scents actually don't, but this one does, all right? And you can see that with the bottle color. It's basically a midnight navy bottle, and that denotes this concept of midnight or nighttime in the middle of a coniferous forest. And that is something that you would never catch me doing. I mean, I don't camp or I don't hike, but that is the concept. You can see that in all sorts of marketing material related to YSL Y Le Parfum 2025. Now, what greets you though in the opening of this fragrance? I will say this, that the intro right here is, well, standard issue. All right, it's not related to the concept, at least the opening. And right here in the opening, you're gonna get bergamot, you're gonna get ginger, dried ginger, and some woods in the opening of YSL Y Le Parfum. Typical standard issue bergamot, designer-ish bergamot, sparkling but designer-ish, not really mixed with anything else. And I will say this, that the ginger in this fragrance, although dry and somewhat spicy, isn't really that strong for me to consider it like a Tigar, you know, like a Bulgari Tigar. No, it's not. The dry ginger and woods actually contribute to the eventual transition into the mid that, in my opinion, is more related to the concept of this fragrance. But nevertheless, the thing that shines bright here in the intro of this fragrance is your sparkling designer-ish bergamot. Can't say nothing much other than it's a standard issue opening. Okay, so now let's talk about initial sillage and projection of YSL Y Le Parfum 2025. This one right here is a lingering draw-in scent. Okay, there's something kind of reserved and draw-in about this fragrance, but then again, that initial part is actually lingering. It is not, though, because it's kind of like a sparkling bergamot and there's nothing aromatic about it. This is a fragrance that I would say would be more of like 4 to 5 feet away around you, or even close quarters, guys. All right, so I don't consider this like a room conqueror with a lot of strong pushing types of notes in the intro. It's just a nice reserved sparkling bergamot, dried ginger and woods in the intro of this fragrance right here. Okay, so now let's head into the mid of this fragrance right here, and the mid is really where it's at. This is really the point of contention that you are getting, you know, the very polarizing feedback on YSL Y Le Parfum. Like I said, the ginger and the woods are actually a nice transition. I mean, that's Ropion being Ropion. It's a nice transition into the mid, which is more closely linked to the concept of this fragrance right here. Right here in the mid, you are gonna get balsam fir, you're gonna get pine needles, and you will also get the spicy geranium floral. Okay, so that is the mid of YSL Y Le Parfum. Mostly it's gonna be your foresty approach, all right? And this is where, like I said, people go, it's horrible, and some people are like, it's awesome. For many reasons, guys. I mean, let's go into the different sides of it. You know, why would it be awesome? It would be awesome because it's a nice departure from the typical sweet, aromatic, spicy types of profiles that have dominated this, you know, this type of like, you know, designer scent lineups for quite a while now. And for those that are expecting something different, you will get something different, because that bridge of the dried ginger and woods goes into straight up natural smelling pine and balsam fir, basically your coniferous forest, dry, woodsy, piney green. And you don't have much of that sweetness. You don't have much of that. The geranium, I would say, which lends some body of spiciness and slight sweetness, is very undercover here. It's kind of like a backup note to everything. But the thing that will dominate it, like I said, as the bergamot goes away, is very natural smelling, foresty type smells, all right, that comes out in this fragrance. Somewhat fresh, somewhat spicy, but mostly, like I said, it's got this like evening time vibe that's very, I would say, formal in the approach. And that is where I can see a lot of people are hating on this fragrance, because the usage of this suddenly changes, guys. At least for me, that's what it did. When I think about designer perfumes, I think about grabbers that are compliment getters that you can just wear anytime, maybe even in the club, right? I mean, if you're single and you're going to the club, it's something that you can wear. But the change into this midnight forest accord with the foresty pine and balsam fir and a little bit of geranium, like I said, to me makes this fragrance a gentleman scent. Straight up formal gentleman scent. And I, you know, imagine kind of like a guy in the UK wearing this full suit and all, shirt and suit. That is what really changed. I mean, I even thought about like maybe like a real estate agent selling multi-million-dollar houses wearing something like this. There is that reserved nature when you have green and piney and dry woodsy right here in the mid of YSL Y Le Parfum, which, like I said, takes away the usual usage that most people think about when it comes to designer perfumes. This is a lot more gent scent, a lot more reserved, a lot more formal in its approach, and that is where it's at right here. I gotta say though that if you are looking for something different though, and there's so many people in the fragcom space looking for something new, this is definitely a big departure from the usual because it doesn't use any typical spicy aromatics, lavender, what have you. This one goes into straight masculine gent scent that you really can wear in a lot of semi-formal to formal occasions as well as work. If you are that typical kind of like reserved gentleman with, you know, your suit and your shirt, your nice crisp shirt, I feel like this is the type to wear there. So this actually has its usage right there. And again, it will be totally new for those that are sick and tired of the same old sweet, spicy, aromatic stuff on the designer space. Okay, so now let's talk about the dry down of this fragrance right here. The dry down starts in the 6-hour mark. And so you will get pretty much like 5 or so hours of this mid. And I will say this, that the sweetness somehow resumes in the final part of this fragrance. Now you are gonna get some dark, woody, tenacious patchouli, that makes sense because you have the midnight accord, you have the nighttime themed mid right here, and patchouli, which in my opinion actually comes in early into the mid, like the latter parts of the mid, will actually lend that nighttime woodsy feel into this fragrance. And then you have some slightly sweet amber go with that patchouli to give you guys like that slightly sweet ending that a lot of people are familiar about. All right, so I would say the first part and the dry down, these are the more familiar parts of this fragrance YSL Y. The mid, which is a significant amount, is the differentiator right here. All right, so again, goes back to something familiar with a dark patchouli and amber dry down in YSL Y Le Parfum. Okay, so what do I think of this fragrance right here, YSL Y Le Parfum? All right, I know that there are gonna be people that don't like change and they wanna stick to the OGs, but really there's a lot of reasons why things keep changing. And you know, there is a quote out there that says, well, you know, to be happy you got to be able to you know, submit to change, right? And I feel like, you know, this is the same, you know, reaction I've had with Dior Homme Parfum when it came out. A lot of people hated on it, and then now people are kind of like, whoa, it's actually kind of nice and it's growing on me and people are loving it, right? And that's because, guys, you know, these flankers really come from, I would say, the buying habits of, you know, people that go into these lines and purchase these fragrances. I really feel like companies like YSL and Emporio Armani, they've mastered the buying habits of their customers. And maybe just like Dior Homme Parfum, although people love the original formula, maybe it's not even making money anymore for, you know, companies like Dior Homme. You know, maybe it's not making that kind of sales. And what they do know is that with the buying habits of a lot of their customers, putting in a new flanker will revitalize the sales, rejuvenate the sales, bring in some new fans into the fragrance or the product line. And I feel like that's really where it's at. Now, fragrance-wise though, I gotta say this is a grower, all right? This is a grower. I really appreciate that mid part, that change. Well, I'm mostly a niche guy, so I like changes. I like really smart ways of creating, you know, a fragrance out of a concept, and they did follow through with that concept, that Midnight Forest, with this fragrance right here. Is it something that will be very familiar to you? Hell no. But like I said, if you are a gent and you want to wear something gent scent wise, this is, to me, a really good type of designer scent that you can add to the mix. All right, so very usable, but it's not going to be a more generalized usage that many people using designer scents are going to be familiar with. Usage wise, this fragrance is pegged as a nighttime, midnight type of scent, midnight forest concept type of scent. But to me, this fragrance can be used anytime, anywhere. All right, there's nothing here that's so thick that it could be like a fall winter fragrance only. No, this is an anytime, anywhere, daytime, even AC environments, guys. Again, an upscale grabber to me, or a grabber if you are a typical gent that wears suits and shirts to work, because this could be an amazing fragrance for work as well. All right, it's not so much on the compliment factor, but more on the gentleman factor. Like I said, I think about a guy in the UK wearing this right here. Okay, typical guy that's rolling down, what's that, Savile Row. I don't know what the right pronunciation is, but typical guy that rolls down there would wear something like this. I mean, it's got elements of brightness from the intro, the bergamot and everything, but of course I like that woody coniferous, type of mid right here, which is, like I said, to me it is a grower. I mean, to me it is a grower. It's something that, the more you wear it, the more you appreciate the usage and the more that you will like it. And let's talk about total performance on this one, guys. Total performance was 10 to 11 hours. But, you can always overspray because this is the type of fragrance that's really not that expensive and you can use a lot of juice. And I do know that YSL bottles do have drenchers of sprayers right there. So to me, 10 to 11 hours, but it could be longer for y'all. Not really that bad. It didn't disappear really quickly. It's also, like I said, not a room conqueror by any means. It doesn't use a lot of strong, sweet, and aromatic notes, but rather a nice sparkling bergamot note that goes into a dry, woodsy coniferous forest. So this is going to be a lot more for the wearer throughout the lifetime of this fragrance, but like I said, 10 to 11 hours. Okay, so now let's talk about the pricing on this one, and is it a full bottle worthy fragrance? Now, first things first, I would not blind buy this fragrance. This is a try first. This is the reason to hit up Jared Miller and get a decant or a sample of this fragrance, because this is not going to be like your typical designer scent, okay? But it might introduce to you something new. So get a sample first, and I believe the price on this one is $185 for 100 ml. Just like any designer scent, if you can see the purpose of the fragrance and you're vibing with what it's for and what the concept is, how it's linked to the actual execution, then anything obviously is going to be full bottle worthy, just not blind bottle worthy. So make sure to test this or go to your local Sephora or Nordstrom and try this fragrance, but please do not straight buy this unless you've tried it. And that is it. That is my no hype review on the latest YSL Y flanker for 2025, YSL Y Le Parfum. Let me know in the comments below what y'all think of this fragrance, and I am expecting a bunch of different feedback, good or bad or ugly. Just do not be disrespectful to others in this comment space as well as myself. But if you hate the fragrance, you like the fragrance, share it below. I would love to know what your reactions are upon wearing or buying this fragrance. All right, and that is it. I will be back with other videos. I mean, in terms of the designer space, I've got the Stronger With You Parfum that I have. And if you have other suggestions on designer scents that you think I should hack, that's not your typical boring designer scent. Last one I did was Terre d'Hermès, and I thought that that was quite different, so it was worth reviewing. Comment below as well. And I will see you guys on the next video. I'm back to work, unfortunately. I will see you guys. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. God bless. Take care. Peace.